You've heard the phrase strong, independent woman. It's a popular combination of words that makes it seem like strong and independent are synonymous, right? Like you can't be a strong woman without being independent. Well, my next guest says that's not necessarily true. Studio 5 contributor Shima Baughman believes our world's view of what makes a woman strong is wrong. In fact, she believes strong women are not afraid to depend on others. Shima joins me to explain. This is gonna be good and juicy. I am settling in and I'm so excited. So last year, we're gonna dial it back.
Yes, a little bit.
Really popular little movie.
Yes, a little popular movie, a massive movie called the Barbie movie.
Which I don't know if you intentionally represent.
Yes.
People loved it.
Yes.
I was just telling Shima,
Yes.
I've intentionally avoided it.
Really?
Because I had the hunch that the movie, the narrative would take up brain space towards some of these points that you're gonna make today.
Smart.
So I've kind of just like, I don't even wanna waste my energy on it. But people loved it.
They did.
You believe it had some narrative, some theme that could be damaging.
That's right. And I think it's emblematic of kind of a larger societal trend of kind of going towards women being kind of alone, independent, that to be a powerful woman that kind of contributes in the world, you got to like shed Ken. Like, go Ken, you're so silly, go away. It's like she has to stand alone. And I think that's a really damaging narrative. I think women without men are not complete. Men without women are not complete. I think that the whole picture requires both sexes to be kind of valued and appreciated, and so I just think it was so wrong in that respect.
We're gonna get into more of what you said. Let's first take a look though at a clip that I haven't seen yet. Here we go.
I can't believe it.
You can go now.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
Oh, but I don't want you here.
Is it Ken?
Ken's just a really good friend. And this is my dream house. It's Barbie's dream house. It's not Ken's dream house, right?
Right, as always.
And it's girls' night.
Come on, Barbie, slumber party.
Hurry up, the president's here.
I am, you're welcome.
Every night is girls' night.
Every night. Forever.
Every night.
Forever and ever. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, maybe I've got to see it for the scenery and costume alone.
There are some good costumes, I have to say. For someone who appreciates fashion, I was like, okay, I like the fashion, but the message overall, did not love it.
Didn't land for you. And let's talk about why, Shima. In that, you are going to share quiet markers of a strong woman. And you say the first one is that strong women benefit from a strong partner.
That's right. I think, when you think about and you study kind of the history of time, right, from the Bible to Thomas More's Utopia to, Mozart's Magic Flute, like a common theme of a utopia or a Zion or perfect society, paradise, call it what you want, Eden, right, is a man and a woman. It's the couple. It's the kind of what we contribute to each other. We are complementing, we're different. And so yes, it is easier if girls' night was every night. And I think, as both of us being married, we could probably say, yeah, it would be easier to have girls' night every night than to work out, what we do every night with our spouses, because we see the world differently. But I think there's like a beauty in that. And I think what Barbie was trying to do, and a lot of things, there's so many other narratives that are like Barbie in this world, but it's kind of like, we don't like the world of the past that discriminated against women, that told women, you can't be a Supreme Court justice and you can't be president. But now we're in a world where those things are possibilities, very real ones for lots of women. But at the same time, does that mean that men are no longer needed, that they're not smart? I mean, in order to stop gender bias, you don't need to kind of reverse the bias towards men.
Well, we talk about this, well said. We talk about this a lot on this show as it relates to parenting, but it totally applies here. A huge push should be to stop the pendulum swing.
Yes.
Right? A huge push should be to find that balance in the middle.
Yes.
And what I hear you saying is, because we've come so far from over here, but we don't need to go all the way the other direction.
Right. There's a great example of this that I teach in my class when we talk about rape. There's this old WB.
We should say you're a law professor.
I'm a law professor,
in case people are wondering why we're talking about that subject.
That's what I talk about, rape and murder. That's what I do for my job. But one of the things we talk about is a kind of a rape culture. And there was an old cartoon by the WB called Fifi LaFew. I don't know if you remember it. It was this old skunk, and people accused it to be kind of, engendering this kind of rape culture because this skunk would go around and like force cats to like make out with it. It was like teaching kids like you need to force people to make out with you. And what WB did to respond was they created a female skunk that did the same thing that would like capture men. And it's like no, and I feel like Barbie's doing the same thing. It's like no, we don't need to say men are stupid because in the 80s or 90s, we said women were stupid in a lot of shows, right? Like we don't need to do that to men. Like,
well, even the
let's
marketing,
be smarter.
Even the marketing of Barbie was so dismissive toward that
So
Ken
much.
character, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
here we're saying he's just Ken.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. It's
yeah.
all about Barbie and and it's not about Ken. Like he's silly and he is kind of a caricature in the movie,
Well,
right?
sure.
He's not smart. He has this like toxic masculinity that he gets when he goes to the real world. I mean, there's this whole thing that it plays into these stereotypes that are so bad. And it's like, no, we don't need that. And so the funniest thing is like in the movie, you haven't seen it, but the Supreme Court's all women. Which to me is like as much of a nightmare as an all-male Supreme Court. Like that's not what we want. That's not utopia, right? Eliminating men from public dialogue. We need men, we need women, right? We need to work together. And it's harder that way. It's easier if only men dominate or women, but we all have to work together.
You keep reaching for the word easier, which is so appropriate. Easier isn't always better.
Right.
So with that, a quiet marker of a strong woman is she doesn't demean others, no matter gender, no matter stereotype or status.
That's right. No, I think that's a big point of it. And I think there's a lot of that going on in the Barbie movie, a lot of kind of dismissing men.
A strong
and it
woman
makes you sad. Like I'm curious if you see it. Like it actually makes you sad for Ken. I haven't heard anyone say that, but I'm like, poor Ken. Like what about Ken?
In defense of Ken.
Like we need both Barbie and Ken, right?
Well, I feel that way, and this has been, I think, more vocally addressed in the last, I'll give it decade, but I feel that way when fathers are represented.
That's right.
As kind of fumbling, bumbling, because I'm married to a great father and a strong, and so to see them portrayed that way is always disheartening.
Yeah, and there's a bigger dialogue in society about men feeling like they're graduating less from college than women. They're not feeling empowered. They're not feeling educated. They're not being as educated. They're feeling like lost in society. And I think movies like the Barbie movie or other kind of narratives like that, where it's like, it's about women and empowering women. Let's not forget about men. They're so critical. We need their voices. We need them educated.
A strong woman values motherhood.
Yes. Yes, I think that's so good because I think part of this kind of cultural narrative right now is this idea that women are better off kind of running for the Supreme Court and being a president and doing all these things. And those are great things. But we also live in a society where we're blessed that you can do both of those things, right? Yeah. You can be, we had Justice Durham, Supreme Court, first, female Supreme Court justice in Utah, had a bunch of kids, right? Lots of judges have kids. Lots of business leaders like yourself have kids, and those are your joy. And I think about my life, right? And the things I accomplished. And I remember early getting married, and I thought, okay, I need to do all these things. I had this bucket list for my career. I was like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And as I kind of knock some of those things off, and I look at my career now after 20 years, I'm like, what has really been the greatest joy in the last 20 years? It's like none of my books. It's any one of my kids, right? All 5 of them. And I know that you say that a lot.
Amen, sister. Yeah.
Which, yes, you have an Emmy, but you have your kids. And what matters more?
It's the top resume line. And I think most women would say that. And you don't have to choose is the thing.
No,
you
and
can
that's
celebrate both.
That's right. You can have both.
A strong woman knows the true source of happiness.
Yes. And I think this comes, to top of mind right now because Arthur Brooks released a new book called Build a Life You Want with Oprah Winfrey. It's so good. And he spoke at BYU's Wheatley Institute just barely, and he's at the U a lot. He's just kind of in Utah. And the top 4 things he says after, 20 years of happiness research, faith, to make you happy, right? Faith, family, friendships, so relationships, and then meaningful work. And number 1 for him is faith. And so I think that kind of keeping your core values, like the things that you believe in, the things that you want to stand up for, I think those things make women stronger. They make women more powerful leaders when you have true principles that you use to back up your work.
And finally, Shima, this is a big one. You say a strong woman knows how to value her contribution. And that word value is important. I think sometimes women misconstrue value for power. Like they want value, but really what they want, or they want power, but really what they want is value or validation.
Yes. And I think for me, that principle, I look at my mom, and when I was younger, I really used to value the things she did outside of the home where she didn't actually work, but for a time when she was younger, she was a political activist in Iran and worked for democracy and ended up going to political prison for it. And we always just kind of talked about that with our mother is like, that's what we were proud of, not the kind of 25 years she spent raising kids at the home. And I look at her now and I'm like, what I really appreciate now is that she cut up fruit for us when we came home from school.
Yes.
And she was just there and around and available to do whatever. You know, she'd get out her math textbooks if we wanted help, and she couldn't really help, you know, but she tried. And I just think of, and my dad too, right? I mean, I think he would look at his life and what gives him the greatest joy is his grandkids. It's not his 25 years as a neurosurgeon or a neurologist. And I think for men and women as parents, I just think that's what value we contribute. That's the legacy that we bring. And I wanted to tell you one other thing about my colleague. I had a colleague that I went to dinner with last year, and he's very prominent in my field. And he was just saying, you know, I'm working on my next book. And he's like, the book I really want to write is one that will last 200 years. He's like, that's a book that will be lasting. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm like, none of my books are going to be that lasting. Like, I know they're not. And I was thinking, I'm like, what book has lasted that long? And I'm like, the Bible, right? Like Scripture lasts that long. And I just think of, besides Scripture, right, our children, our posterity, that's what lasts forever. And
Your
so
history.
thinking about, what you create, I'm like, the children I leave, that's the mark I'll leave on the earth, is my children and what I've taught them, and hopefully they'll teach their children. And so I just think like that's what's important, right?
Well, what you can't evaluate or quantify has the most value.
That's right.
In
so
the end,
true.
always.
Amen.
I love this. I don't need to see the movie. See, we just talked it out right
worked it
now.
out.
My brain is free of any negative energy I might have felt watching it. Thank you. We love your insights and your heart.